So I tried watching Magi, the Labyrinth of Magic. I just gotta say, my anime taste is so warped from what everyone else likes, especially like the top anime YouTubers. But fuck it, I'm just gonna say it like it is. So it starts off neutral. Like many animes, it's lacking context, and on purpose they throw you in here just to like confuse you, only to explain it to you later on. Nothing wrong with that. Aladdin gets a wish, and we don't know what he wished for. Cool, nothing wrong with the show so far. And then they show Alibaba. First off, why are the characters named Alibaba and Aladdin, yet they're drawn Japanese? Like, draw them as Arabs. Or not. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But when I'm not entertained, I start nitpicking. Especially when thoughts are running through my mind about other shows that did it better. But like, okay, so this is like a retelling of like the 40 Thieves story, right? Same story, different characters. Actually, wait, hold up. First, why does Alibaba have a spike on his head? And also, like, okay, so he finds Aladdin eating food that he wasn't supposed to be eating. Why is he trying to hide it? Like, how come when he's asked a question, he does that like stupid anime thing where he only answers like halfway and really slowly, only to let the fat guy interrupt him and form like a miscommunication. And it's a miscommunication that could have easily been avoided if he had just spoken the words he was going to speak. And why is he apologizing for something he didn't do wrong? Like, this is supposed to make the boss look bad, but that boss looks totally justified. You apologize for things you did wrong, right? If I'm the boss and I see this guy and he's screwed up and he's apologizing for it, that clearly indicating that he's wrong, damn right I'm gonna be mad. I mean, he never once said, hey, I found him here. I have nothing to do with this. Like, why doesn't he just say that? This is what I hate about so many anime. In order to create some conflict, they pull these like stupid, same old, unrealistic bullshit tactics like these. And I'm tired of it. And then at 9 minutes in, we meet girl with pigtails on hot pink hair. And she's pouting, going back and looking at this frame now. She's a slave. Why is she pouting? Why is she showing this kind of personality in like an attempt to have like a element of like a push-pull in a friendly relationship? And keep this in mind, because all this is thrown out the window later. Like, she's only pouting so they can check off the anime girl checklist they have. The fat dude, we're gonna call him Boo. So Boo says stealing a slave is a serious offense. They're gonna chop off your arms. What blows my mind is, why does Alibaba just let these misunderstandings pile up? Why doesn't he just go, like, just say the words, I am not trying to steal a slave? Like, how hard is that? Why not just explicitly say that? And then we get a really cool moment. Actually, the coolest moment of the whole show that I've watched. The way his hands move is cool. The way it like puts Boo to shame is cool. The sound design is cool. The music is cool. And they never use that music or anything like that ever again. And we get like a glimpse of some character writing I can actually watch. Boo is petrified and I love it. And I've seen this type before many times in my life. When someone has like $1,000 in their pocket, they act like they're like a king of the world and they treat everyone like shit. And then when they have nothing in their pocket, they become beggars, asking people to spare them anything they have for their lives. In fact, it's this attitude, this very attitude, that is so prevalent in bringing rap culture down and making people into groupies. And which is why like so many people will never make it out of their situation, because they can't decide if they're a slave or a god. Their personality does a little flip-flop depending on, not on their character, but on how much money they have in their pocket. They're not real. They're not, like, in the rap game, it's always valued to be a real one, right? They're not real. And so this is a pretty good antagonist. I can resonate with that. I respect that. I've seen that. I've seen guys in my life like this, and I despise them. So yeah, glad to see it, At 13 minutes in, we see even more of his character, and this is good. Show us that he doesn't really see himself as anything. He's like sad and desperate to be powerful. And instead of truly becoming powerful, he just desires to like be perceived as powerful. So he acts like hot shit and puts other people down around him. But when he's in front of his superior, he's just a kiss ass. Alibaba gets asked if he wants to work for Boo for life or get arrested on the spot. And we see him be a kiss ass right there. This does not make him endearing, and it isn't really all that funny. It kind of just makes him unlikable. Me personally, if I was in this situation, I always just said go to hell. Now, I want you to look at this frame of all these slaves in the cage, right? Keep in mind, they're all slaves. They're supposed to be the same, one of many. Slaves. None of them have any standout features or things that make them unique because they're slaves. I'm not picky when it comes to visuals. I got used to kaiji in like 10 seconds. But I shouldn't be able to play guess the main character with a group of slaves. They set off and Boo starts spouting off about how like, oh yeah, slaves should not be aspire to be anything more than slaves. That's all they are is slaves. Am I right? Am I right? And it's like, this is the lowest common denominator of villain like attribute you can make. This is like Wonder Woman 1984 levels of bad. You know, anything that's going to be watched by like people past like 5 years old, the villains need a motivation for being evil. What's this guy's motivation? Like, think about it, really. What's his motivation for just like randomly going off and talking about how slaves should know their place? Why does he even consider it worth talking to a commoner if he thinks so lowly of everyone else? The motivation of just like being evil for no reason is so elementary. And it's like, I hate when shows try to like teach me shit the way you would teach a 3-year-old. It's the lowest hanging fruit and it's so effortless. And instead of giving him some motivation, you know, for like maybe the pursuit of safety to protect his own mortality, right? Which is something that would work for him. You just go like, he is bad because he is bad. Like, what are you trying to teach me here? What's the moral of the story here? This character that I shouldn't be like, is that really the reason why I shouldn't be like him? This is why nobody respects Hollywood anymore. Because they used to teach like really nuanced morals, like really deep stuff. And now their lessons in movies are all like, racism is bad. No shit, Einstein. I didn't need to watch your movie to figure that one out. It's like, I can't deal with this, dude. I can't. It's too simple-minded. It's too simple-minded. And the rest of that episode is kind of mediocre, except I gotta address this. It's a problem across the board. Many animes do this. But in animes that are good, I can overlook them. Like in Konosuba, when Kazuma just like stands there while Aqua's being eaten by frogs so that he can like monologue for a bit. Like, yeah, it's stupid, but I can overlook it if I'm having fun, and if I'm being entertained, I won't nitpick. But this is so prevalent of like everyone in the show, they just like stand around doing nothing. Like while Alibaba is being eaten alive, Aladdin just like picks up the wine, then he gets his turban on, which he didn't even need to do himself. Then he just stands there for a bit and looks down and then smiles, and then everyone stops and stares for a few seconds, and he does like a pose for the camera, and then finally he drops the wine. Like, why aren't you dropping it immediately? What's the reason to wait like that? And every character does this to some degree, but for some reason, like with Aladdin, they decided to like make that a character trait for him. Like a part of his character is that he like stupidly wastes time. And keep this in mind for later. But all in all, it was a pretty good first episode. And I know I like ragged on it, but believe it or not, I'm actually very lenient with my critiques. Like, you have to really fail miserably quite a bit before you get me to stop liking your show. I actually don't nitpick as much people say I do. In fact, I think I give these shows too much credit, because objectively they're garbage, but I can still kind of put up with them, you know? So episode 2, they get transported into a dungeon, and they escape from a fire that should have killed them. There's some combat that ends with a giant explosion, and we don't even get to see what happens. For all we know, you know, the bug is just healing itself right now like it did earlier. But I guess, you know, if the music stopped, then the bug is dead. Bad writing if you ask me, but hey, what do I know? It's not like I'm a writer or anything. Nah, I can't nitpick this episode enough, dude. I'm just gonna say like a couple of major things I noticed. Grey Eyes is repeatedly stabbing Jug. These are names I'm giving the characters right now because I can't remember their names. Jug is short for like Juggernaut knockoff. Now think about what's going on here. Why is Alibaba just standing there? Why is Grey Eyes just monologuing about how labor is expensive and worthless? What's the reason for him to do that? He isn't talking to anyone. Is that just like what these guys do? They just talk like all day, every day, like, oh boy, those slaves sure are worthless. And 2 minutes later, they're like, man, I can't believe how worthless slaves are. Like, is it really worth repeating over and over and over again how worthless they are and how they don't deserve to live? And like, you could think that, right? Cool, story, this is all part of the story. But like, is this really a productive use of words? And then Jug is standing there, and I'm thinking about it right now. Slaves don't usually get muscles this big unless he was, you know, put through a lot of like trials and tribulations. But then how did he lose so easily to Alibaba? And like, why isn't he fighting back? Sorry, but it doesn't matter how scared you are of someone. When they put your life at risk, it's fight or flight. Instinctually, he would swing his sword at him. Why didn't Alibaba just like stab Grey Eyes while he isn't looking? And nothing of note happens until Girl, I'm just gonna call her Girl. She doesn't deserve a name. She shows all the signs of like a pretty decent runaway slave, right? Slightly laughing, you know, looking away from a tragic scene, signs of humanity, right? And then on command, she goes like full strength to capture Aladdin. Right after Aladdin made her feel free, she goes all out. You might say, oh, but she's being forced to do it. Bro, she can pretend like she's trying and then miss on purpose. That would be a way stronger, like, runaway slave character. But if she acts like she truly wants to kill him, like, what's changed? Nothing. And neither did the bad writing. Episode 3, the combat sucks. The villain has no motivation to be a villain. Girl is inconsistent and now lacks all signs of her previous character. Now it's like she wants to kill Alibaba even more than Grey Eyes does, which is totally unnecessary. She doesn't need to. Now think about this. This lifeless husk of a person, right? When she first meets someone random who she's never met before, is pouting playfully. Like, do you see how stupid this looks now? Aladdin does his signature move of standing around doing nothing. I wanted to drop it after one episode, but other reviewers told me not to. So I watched episode 2 and I wanted to drop it, and then they still convinced me to stay. Now I'm finished with episode 3, and the show has become even worse. By the way, if you ask me, no man named Aladdin should be this powerful. He should have granted access to that power, but he himself should not be this powerful. No kid who's 3 feet tall should have hair that's 3 feet long. Like, this whole thing makes no sense. And guess what? It's boring. But I decide to continue on. The beginning of episode 4, Boo is now an underling of Alibaba. And now this was kind of like the last straw for me. You see, I can be a bit of a mean person, right? People have called me an asshole many, many times. When there's someone in a show I don't like, I want to see them lose. I want to see them destroyed. Like, I don't even want to see them die because that would be too easy for them. That would be a coward's way out, right? And now you see Boo acting all friendly and inferior, which is supposed to give us that good feeling of like, yeah, he gets what he deserves, right? But I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking, what's changed? He was already doing that for Grey Eyes. And we know that somehow if he gets his power and status back, he's gonna go right back to acting like a prick. Like, yeah, his behavior is embarrassing, but who he is, like his character and his intentions, are the same, and they're not being punished. Like, him being a prick has no consequences for him. He clearly has not learned his lesson. His spirit needs to be broken. He needs to have his idea of superiority and inferiority like violently ripped out of him. And yet, there he is, still playing the kiss ass for the leader of the land. Nothing's changed. He's still like a terrible evil guy, right? Am I supposed to feel good if he's acting this way? Either the writers have no idea what they're doing, or they wrote about people who they had never actually experienced in real life. Or maybe to them, this was enough to fuel their revenge fantasy or whatever. But not for me. I need more. I need him to bleed a little bit. I need his spirit to be broken. And the fact that his actions have no negative consequence for him, like, I'm done with this. Like, no more of this show, dude. I'm dropping this show right here. I'm not wasting any more of my time dealing with this. I got Marvel movies to watch. 2 out of 10.
It's Filthy Frank, motherfucker. It's Filthy Frank, bitch. Let's get some pussy tonight.